How do you become memorable? That is why you must create a marketing strategy for your personal brand. We are then going to spread across your entire application. We need to make sure to have a cohesive, tight storyline. And at the end of the day, when I'm done reading your application, that brand should stand out in my brain. You might be similar to your peer, but the way that we convey. So let's step back. Let me give you a quick lesson on what branding means, okay? So let's take two companies, Zoom and Google Meet. Both are about connecting from home. But when Google Meet came out, they were all about connecting with your friends and family who weren't within the same room as you. Whereas Zoom was for professionals who wanted to connect with their work colleagues. That is the difference between the two strategies. They are the same, the way you might be similar to your peer, but the way that we convey your brand is different. And one more branding example for you, the favorite of everybody, Microsoft versus Apple, right? So both are obviously very much your top tech companies. Take a look at this picture. So if you see, originally Microsoft's packaging had all this business jargon. There was no white space, and Apple was all about the simplicity and the coolness of being in this white, pristine look that they had, right? So if you see, originally Microsoft's packaging had all this business jargon. There was no white space, and so that differentiation is your positioning or your branding. So if you remember, there are elements which contribute to your application in total. It is these elements that will describe your brand. One is your personality, who you are. Are you funny? Are you empathetic? Are you kind? Are you curious? And the second of that is what your passion is. So what is your expertise? What do you care the most about? And what are you really good at? Now, both of these need to come together, and they need to explain, one, why you're better than your competitors, or at least different than your competitors. Okay, so one way that you can brand yourself is by having a phrase that describes you that you would hammer home in each of the elements of your application. So like the internationally recognized writer, or the charitable farmer, or the environmental engineer. These strong phrases that make it clear what you are and who you are. When I'm done reading your application, those are the final 3 to 5 words that should stand out in my brain, so that you can remain memorable in the eyes of the admissions committee. So disjointed stories dilute your brand majorly. Let's say you want to be an English major, but you have not taken the most difficult English course at your school, or you have not gotten a letter of recommendation from your English teacher. This makes me question, why do you actually want to be an English major? Let's say you spend 200 hours on your computer science extracurriculars, but again, you've not written an essay on computer science. So I don't actually know, why do you care about computer science? Here's another very disjointed story. Let's say that 2 or 4 of your essays are about leadership, but then your teachers don't write at all about how you're a leader. Again, I'm very suspicious. Is he a leader, or is he the only one who thinks he's a leader, right? We need to make sure that we do not see those kinds of stories which don't have a cohesive, tight storyline. And to do that, you really need to think about the application as one whole, as a puzzle which needs to go together. So here, take a look at my screen. This is basically where I'm showing you the different pieces of the puzzle that come together, right? You have your personal statement, you have your supplemental essays, you have your letters of recommendations, you have the courses you take, the extracurriculars you take, the qualities that you take. All of them should fit together, okay? So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to show you a student and what his different real life activities were with each of those buckets. Okay. So if you see here in your course selection, the student has taken AP Psych as well as AP Computer Science, okay? He was a CBSE child, and that's why he decided to take AP classes to show that he could compete at a global level. Also, additionally, there's no psychology or computer science courses, and that's what he was applying to. So he wanted to, again, show his interest in both of these subjects by taking additional classes outside of school for that. He was the founder of a computer science club. He was also the founder of a mental health startup called Empathy Blooms. Additionally, he got recommendations from his math teacher and his English teacher. His personal qualities were obsession, growth, and empathy. His supplemental essays were about the psychology labs at each of these schools. how he tried to master the guitar by watching YouTube videos, and how he was very curious about the number one. And his final personal statement was about his obsessive nature and his desire to master everything he put his hands on. That was his brand, his differentiator. This is where we see how every piece of this puzzle is connected, right? You need to make sure there's links in between these pieces. So let's take AP Psych. For example, with AP Psych, he had started his mental health startup, Empathy Blooms. He also got a letter of recommendation from his English teacher because there was no psychology teacher available, and he wanted to show that he had strength in humanities. He used the connection between these three pieces, courses, extracurriculars, and letter of recommendation to show a storyline, right? He also was very focused on growth. And he did this by founding the Computer Science Club, where they continuously added new activities that were more difficult in each of the levels. He also talked about his obsessive pursuit of different challenges, like how he was able to go and solve a cube within 20 seconds blindfolded, right? And finally, he talked about his guitar and how YouTube helped him master the capability to perform any song that he wanted to perform. All of these led to this final positioning, which you see here on the right, about how he was an obsessive learner and he was multifaceted in everything he did. When we finish the application, and what I always recommend is take all the pieces of your application, paste them into a single page, ask somebody else to read it, and tell you what words describe your brand. They should land on those descriptive phrases you came up with. If not, we need to figure out how to insert your branding deeper into your application so that you represent a distinct brand. Let me give you one more example here so you can really understand how this works. Here's another student. You can read the things she participated in. So one is that she was very risk-seeking, okay? And therefore, she decided to swim the English Channel with jellyfish and 15-degree weather. She also decided to participate in the Wharton Global Investment Competition. And finally, she wrote her essay about how her risk-seeking nature was one of the main reasons why she chose the various activities that she chose within school, right? She also wanted to do economics, so she took IB Business Studies, and she got a letter of recommendation from her teacher on that, and she wrote a research paper with a Stanford professor on economics and the impact on young girls in India. Again, the storyline is very tight, and it's very clear who this person is when you're finished reading, okay? You can remain memorable. So here's somebody who's disjointed, right? If one document tells me you're brave, and another document tells me that you're smart, and a third document tells me that you're confident, I don't know which of those that you are, and you're no longer memorable, right? Because you just seem like you're a lot of things. So really the point is, how do we create the tightest brand? How do we maximize on those 5 words who describe who you are so that you can remain memorable in the eyes of the admissions committee? As always, if you have comments, please leave them at the bottom.